We love recruiting students to Newman.
But we love having fun when you get here.
Isn't that so nice? Soft. I know.
3, 2, 1.
He moved! Oh my gosh.
3, 2, 1. 2, 3.
Say cheese.
2, 3.
Say cheese.
Oh, snap.
Oh, I was just swinging on the
I know, I saw you. You're really close to me.
1, 2, 3.
Say cheese. What? Well, welcome everybody to our virtual counselor appreciation breakfast here at Newman University. My name is Georgia Drews. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions here at Newman. We had quite the turnout for today's meeting. We invited way more people than we usually do because it's virtual. Typically this event is on campus in our conference center with a nice catered breakfast and prizes. And you get to sit and mingle and meet people from around the area. And we typically only invite our local Sedgwick County High School counselors. But because this event is virtual, for obvious reasons, we got a lot more of a turnout this year. We're super excited to give updates to those that are familiar with Newman, but also give people a chance to learn about Newman for the first time. So it'll be a mix of that today. Our schedule is going to have a little bit of everything. We have a welcoming and opening prayer by our chaplain, Father Adam Grelinger. We're going to hear from Dr. Kathleen Jagger, our current president, who started with us back in July. She is our 12th president and the second lay woman to ever have that position. And then we're going to go into campus updates. So you'll get to hear from Dr. Audrey Hane about our Navigator program. You're going to hear from Joseph Shepard about our first generation program called First to Go. You're also going to hear from Dr. Kelly McFall, one of our professors of history and director of our honors program, about the honors program here at Newman University and some of the study abroad options. Also going to hear from Sonja Bontrager, professor of Spanish, about Spanish program and study abroad. Spanish is our only foreign language here at Newman, but a great option to add in addition to a lot of our different majors. Then you're going to hear some admissions updates from me and my team. We'll have a brief Q&A panel with some members of our campus community, including financial aid and the registrar, as well as athletics. And then if you are able to stay on with us and maybe you're new to Newman and you want to take a virtual tour of campus and hear a little bit more about Newman University, our history, some of our admissions practices, definitely stick around for that. That is completely optional, but we'll be starting that at about 9:30 when our event was slated to end. Right now, before we get started on our event, I'd like to introduce you to Father Adam Grelinger, our chaplain.
Good morning. It's great to be here with you this morning, and thanks for joining us. My name is Father Adam, as Georgia said, and I'm the chaplain. And I would like to begin our day with a prayer and a prayer of Advent, because we're in Advent in preparation for Christmas. And so we'll begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God of power and mercy, open our hearts and welcome. Remove the things that hinder us from receiving Christ with joy, so that we may share his wisdom and become one with him when he comes in glory, where he lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. And before I go, George has asked me to answer one of the questions that was submitted before this event, and that is, how does Newman help students understand and connect their spiritual giftedness with God's calling for their life. And we do this in many ways. Certainly we have campus ministry, which offers a number of opportunities for students to pray and even pray together, Bible studies, the sacraments, different service opportunities, many things there for kind of spiritual development to reflect on what God is doing in their life. But one of the other great programs we have here at Newman is connected with our founders, the Adorers of the Blood of Christ, and that is the ASC Scholar Program. And so it's a scholarship connected with development and leadership, and has a heavy focus on service, which is a great way for students to encounter many different things, serve in many different areas, and meet different people in different programs, to then kind of see what they're drawn to, see where their talents come out, what they get excited about, which is a great way to help our students to discern what God is calling them to by seeing more who they are and how they interact and what the needs are even of their community. But one of the other great things that's new at Newman, and you'll probably hear more about it today, is the Navigator program. I was blessed to be a part of that in this kind of inaugural flight of it this past semester, and they brought me in to teach a vocational piece. So I taught about vocations, certainly the religious vocation of priesthood or religious life or married life, things like that, but also even just kind of a career vocation. How do we recognize the talents that God has given us and how they might apply to our situation and those things around us to bring fulfillment and joy. And so we talked about that, but then I also had the opportunity to meet with each of the students one-on-one to speak to them about vocations and discernment and their questions on that. So yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks, Father Adam. Before we introduce Dr. Jagger, I wanted to let you know that we're going to be doing some prizes at the end of today's event. Those are going to be for some of the best Zoom backgrounds. So if you want to take some time and find a nice Zoom background, maybe one that's on theme with today's event, ELF. We hope you enjoyed your breakfast box that you got in the mail. And if you're daring enough, maybe you can actually use our recipe card to make Buddy the Elf's breakfast pasta. Or you can enjoy all of those items separately, totally up to you. But we are gonna have some members of our staff that are kind of laying low in the background on today's Zoom event, and they're gonna be checking out all of your Zoom backgrounds and finding some of their favorites. So I am not judging this at all. We have our digital media marketing guy, Jeff, is gonna be picking out some of his favorites, and we'll be doing some prizes at the end of today's event. So thank you, Adam. We're going to move on and introduce you to our newish president, Dr. Kathleen Jagger. Like I mentioned, she is the 12th president of Newman University. She joined our university back in early July. She's made quite the impact on campus. She's the second laywoman to ever hold this position, and she's going to talk to you a little bit more today about herself and some of her visions for Newman University's future.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about Newman University. It's an interesting time to be in higher education. Our purpose is clear, with St. John Henry Newman and St. Maria de Matias as our models and guides to empower students to transform the world. We're also guided by Catholic social teaching. We're not interested in simply filling the minds of our students with information or in preparing them for the first job they will have when they graduate. We aim to empower each individual with their God-given talents to use those talents for good and to make a difference in the world wherever they are, for decades to come, perhaps, through various careers. For some, this educational journey is about discovering those talents. For some, it's about discovering their passion. For others, it's about discovering their purpose. We believe that everyone who works at Newman is an educator, from the person in the mailroom to the RA in the residence hall to professors and the registrar. Everyone is here to help our student on their journey. I like to say everyone is a recruitment, retention, and graduation specialist. Today, COVID is overshadowing our lives. Indeed, COVID is this generation's 9/11. It's a time they will never forget. Our job is to model the way forward in difficult times, to show that fear has not displaced a quest for knowledge and preparing for the future. It has brought the best out in us. We've been innovative. We've focused on maintaining a healthy community, on the value of diversity, and on the strength of community. Indeed, our theme for this year is one community, many voices, transforming society. Together, we soar. As a community, we can be positive. As a community, we can innovate. As a community, we can listen and hear one another. As a community, we can model liberally educated minds. As a community, we can become whole, respecting the value of each person. As a community, we can be our best selves every day. As a community, we can graduate people who will transform the world. One innovation is the Catholic Promise, a new program that you'll be hearing more about in January for students graduating from Catholic high schools. Another is how classes were restructured to allow students to be in the class or remote if they were in isolation or quarantine. Another innovation is the Jet Food Pantry, serving students who may be food insecure. And yet another is the Navigator program, a kind of GPS for students to take flight. The goals of Newman really are pretty straightforward. Newman will be the Catholic university of choice for Kansas and the region. Newman will flourish as a leader in Catholic education, service, and scholarship, and be seen as an innovator in teaching and learning. Newman will be seen as a welcoming place for all students, faculty, staff, and visitors, and will continue to serve those underrepresented in the college population. Newman will develop a culture that sees diversity among students, faculty, and staff as an asset, not a threat or a limitation. If this is the type of supportive environment your students want to be in, we'd welcome them at Newman. I make time to listen to all constituencies, not just the administration and the board. I have time in my schedule where students can drop in, and other times where faculty and staff can do so. We are a university looking to improve daily to serve our students better. So again, welcome. Let us know how we can serve your students better. God bless.
Well, thanks so much to Dr. Jagger for giving us a little intro to herself and some updates about campus in addition to her visions for the future. At this point in the schedule, we're going to move into campus updates, which include a few different people from across our campus. The first person you're going to hear from today is Dr. Audrey Hane, who is our Assistant Dean for the Arts and Sciences and the Director of our Navigator program.
Thank you, Georgia. I'm excited to share this program with you all. I often tell students that this is a program that is a gift to them. It was developed by the faculty and staff at Newman University to ensure that they feel supported while they're at Newman and to ensure their success upon graduation. When we talk to students and parents, we know that they want to be able to pursue their academic interests. They want to graduate within 4 years, and they want to minimize their financial obligations upon graduation, and they want to be ensured that they will find either graduate school placement or a job upon graduation. And so we took all of those needs and concerns into consideration when we developed Navigator. So Navigator is a supercharged student support and success program. And I'll break this down and talk to you about this in terms of the two elements of support and success. So every student who enrolls in Navigator has a dedicated support team, and that support team consists of their academic advisor who helps them plan their curriculum, sign up for classes, chart their path while they're at Newman, as well as help with a whole host of activities in terms of discerning their future career and helping them with internship placements and making sure that they're on track for graduation. So that's the first member of the dedicated support team, the academic advisor. The second member is their leadership sponsor. And this is someone that the student identifies. Leadership is an important component at Newman, and it's an important component of this program. As you know, or you may have heard, our mission is to empower students to transform society. And so we think that if we take this mission seriously, we need to give them the leadership skills that they will be necessary for them to be able to live this mission. And so through this program, they will have leadership training, and then they will work on leadership challenges that they experience as students, primarily extracurricular activities. So it might be that they're on the soccer team and they are working with a team that is multilingual, and they are trying to figure out how do they bring this team together for team building, or how do they overcome some of these challenges. So they might ask their soccer coach to serve as their leadership sponsor as they work on this challenge. Or they might be doing a fundraising project for a study and serve trip to Guatemala, where they're trying to raise money so that they can buy toothbrushes and take those to the children that they'll be visiting. And in that case, they might ask their study and serve advisor to serve as their leadership sponsor as they work through the challenges that they experience in that activity. So we love this hands-on aspect, that it is applied, it is grounded in the real world, and we think this leadership training will be very valuable to them. So that's the second person in their dedicated support team. The third person is an alumni mentor. And this is a program that we're just starting, and we're super excited about this. The students can be paired with an alumni mentor who meets their interests. So they can indicate if they want someone from a particular area. If they're from Dallas and they're going to go back to Dallas, then they can indicate that. If they're from Wichita, then they might indicate that they want someone who's a first-generation student who can really identify with some of their challenges. Or they might identify that they want someone who is a dentist because they're pre-dentistry. And so they can pick an alumni mentor who matches their needs and interests. And they can do this in one of two ways. They can have a flash connection with somebody who is just available, who says, hey, I would be happy to look at a resume for you if you want to shoot it over to me before you apply for summer internships. Or they can be matched with someone who has a longer term commitment, who actually helps them with goal setting throughout their career at Newman, as well as into their future. So that is the third person on their dedicated support team. So that's the support element. There's also the success element. And so in developing this program, we did a lot of research with prospective students, current students, and really asked them what they needed to be successful during their journey at Newman. And one of the things they told us is they wanted hands-on learning. So for some students, particularly in the sciences or social sciences, that might include a research project. They could work on that research project with faculty, and then all of our students participate in Scholars Day, which is a day at the end of the semester where they present their original research. So it might be hands-on learning through research. It might be hands-on learning through service projects, whether our students are traveling to a mission someplace or doing a service project over the break. That might be their hands-on learning experience. We feel very strongly that students should have shadowing and internship opportunities, both to develop their resumes and to make sure that their vocational discernment is on track and that they're headed in a path that they're really going to enjoy. So that's some of the hands-on learning. We also are really excited to roll out a digital portfolio system that students start their first semester on campus. And I like to tell students this is like a 3D resume or a LinkedIn account on steroids, in that they can add resumes, they can add a video of themselves delivering their elevator pitch or their mission statement. They can upload projects and give examples of it. And this is a great way for them to demonstrate to graduate schools or to prospective employers that they actually have the skills that those employers desire. It helps the students reflect on what those experiences have been while they've been on campus, that then they can articulate that as they are writing applications or in interviews with students. So we're super excited about that element as well. I already mentioned the leadership training. So the last element is this customized education plan. And that really is a culmination of all these elements coming together. It's the vocational discernment that they do. It is really, because we're a small school, we can meet their educational needs. We can work with students to pair majors together, to pair minors, to get them the experiences they want that will set them up for success when they're looking for their dream job. It's the service element. Again, we were founded by the ASC sisters. Their fingerprints are all over the Wichita community in terms of the ways they serve this community. We want our students to follow in those footsteps and to be service-minded. It's part of transforming society. And then the leadership element comes into it as well. So Newman, I know you all know that Newman offers a great academic experience. We think this is just the icing on the cake as we integrate academics and co-curricular experiences into this new exciting program. So I'll be excited for you all to share this program with your students and let them know that, again, this is just the degree of difference that they can get at Newman University.
Thanks, Audrey. For those of you that might have some more questions about Navigator, we will have time built into the Q&A at the end of today's event. So thanks so much, Audrey. And we're going to move into our next presentation by Joseph Shepard, our Director of Multicultural Engagement and Campus Life, who's going to tell us more about our first-to-go, first-generation program that's new here at Newman University. Morning, Joseph.
Morning, Georgia. Thank you so much for that introduction, and good morning to each and every one of you. What a snowy morning it is in Wichita, but I hope wherever you are warm and enjoying the beginnings of this beautiful holiday season. My name is Joseph Shepard, and I like to say that I have the best job at Newman University, serving as the Director of Multicultural Engagement and Campus Life, where I have the privilege to serve our students in the capacity of helping them understand justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and how it impacts their life from the moment that they arrive at Newman University, from the time that they land their first job outside the four walls of our campus. Really, we have a strong commitment at our institution to ensure that our students understand the importance of respecting the dignity and humanity of every individual in our society. But more importantly, we understand that certain students bring to the table particular experiences that define their academic experience and their co-curricular experience while they are on our campus. So in that vein, we have created the First to Go program, which helps to serve our first generation college students. This is a student population that neither of their parents have graduated from a four-year institution, and so they are the very first in their families to go to college, and breaking, for a lot of them, breaking the cycle of poverty in their family, but more importantly, creating a new legacy for their family and really moving forward to receive a degree that will change the trajectory of their life. But what we also know about our first generation population, not unique to Newman University, but around the entire country, that they face unique challenges. And so since they are a special population, what we did was we created and developed a framework that would allow our students to receive tools and resources that will help turn their educational and professional dreams into a reality. Our First to Go program participants are paired with a mentor through the Navigator program that you just heard Dr. Hane talk about. We really believe it's important for them to understand the valuable aspects of leadership that they already bring to the table, and the Navigator program will help them bring those skills and put them to use. They also meet once a month in a general setting with other first-generation college students where they get to network and discuss and communicate with peers just like them so that they can understand that they're not on this journey alone and that they have a support network among other students on their campus. They also are able to meet with a member of the Student Affairs professional staff bi-weekly, where we check in with them to not only check in on their academic progress, but we get to know them on a deeper level. We get to know their stories. We get to know their struggles. We get to know their success. We also get to know how they're doing mentally, spiritually, emotionally, because all of those aspects impact their performance at our university. We know that our first generation college students struggle with retention. And so we want to make sure that we are not only doing our due diligence to recruit our first generation college students to Newman University, but we want to keep them at Newman University. We want to see them graduate. And that is really our goal, and to really help them understand that they have the power to transform society. They also turn in monthly grade reports where they go around to their professors and they ask their professors for their current grade status. What we do is during our weekly or bi-weekly one-on-ones, any class that is below or at a C level or below, we work with that student and connect them with our academic advising center through the Runway Learning Support Center to get them a tutor in that particular subject to help them bring that grade up. And we are able to do this every month. And so it really helps us to push our students and encourage them to get their grades up to a point where they don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to pass this class towards the end of the semester. They also are able to decide whether or not it's time to withdraw from the class if they're struggling and not feeling as though they're going to be able to pass the course. But more importantly, it really helps define for them what career path they want to go into. A lot of our students enter college thinking that they want to be one thing, but as they go through these courses and they meet one-on-one with student affairs staff, they recognize that they want to go a different route, and that's really okay. So really our first generation college student program is really helping them define who they are, but more importantly, ensuring that they are reaching that academic and social success. We're giving them the soft and critical skills that they need to thrive not only at Newman University, but beyond our institution. So the requirements to be in that program is to be a first generation college student. And I will tell you that there are a few students who have said, I'm not first generation, but I love the tools and resources that are available through this program. I would love to be a part of the program. We welcome them with open arms. We do require that they enroll in the Navigator program because we firmly believe in student affairs that the Navigator program is what sets Newman University apart from other institutions, but more importantly, what will help them set themselves apart when they go and apply for their jobs when they get ready to graduate. They are required to attend our First to Go general meetings, which again take place once a month. And they are also required to attend our First to Go Welcome Soiree, which happens at the beginning of the year, where we bring our first generation college students to campus about a week early so that they can get familiar with the individuals on our campus and the resources that are available and the outlay of our campus before their other peers arrive to campus. This gives them a head start, making sure that they're a step ahead of the game, because many of our first generation college students, again, none of them have really even been on a college campus. And so bringing them to campus a week early allows them to kind of have their boots on the ground a little bit early to understand the ropes of the university. While we do focus on diversity and inclusion, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, we also have a very, very strong commitment to this outside of our first generation college student program. There are many groups that we have at Newman University in the Division of Student Affairs that helps promote this effort. Particularly one group I want to talk to you all about today is our Diversity Roundtable Ambassadors. We believe that when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, since it impacts the lives of our students should be leading the charge and helping our campus become a change agent in respect to diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And in this respect, we have given our students the power to bring forth change in a cultural aspect, political aspect, or social aspect. Our Diversity Roundtable Ambassadors comprise of 10 Newman University diverse students that come from all walks of life. You talk about race, you talk about gender, orientation. They come from all different walks of life. And really, they help student affairs really in holding us accountable to meeting their needs in this respect. They hold several conversations that typically you would see institutions shy away from. So they bring forth those conversations to light, and they allow their peers to come into this setting to share their authentic thoughts, but more importantly, to cultivate an atmosphere where students understand that people don't think like, walk like, talk like, and act like each other. And that is the reality of the real world. So we're preparing our students right now to understand that just because someone doesn't think like, act like, walk like, talk like, look like you, does not mean that you cannot work together and be successful in cultivating an atmosphere in a work environment where you can be productive. That is the spirit of America. That is the spirit of our institution. And more importantly, it's the Midwestern values that we hold near and dear to our heart: honesty, respect, integrity, loving one another despite our differences, and being able to move forward in a way that helps us propel our communities forward. So our Diversity Roundtable Ambassadors commit themselves to doing that. In addition to that, we have our Diversity and Inclusion University Committee that is meeting regularly on a monthly basis to work alongside our university administration to identify the many different ways in which we can support our underrepresented population on campus, whether that be through identifying new revenue for scholarships for minority students, identifying new policies and protocol that we should be putting into place to help us serve our diverse population better, and or making sure that we're looking at ways that we can strategically help recruit and retain diverse faculty and staff on our campus. We know that what our students see is what they believe they can be. And when they see someone that looks like them at the front of the room or in our Department of Student Affairs, they know that their experiences are being valued and their experiences are being heard because other people in positions of authority can relate to those experiences. So with that being said, I will wrap up by saying I truly appreciate you all indulging me over the last few minutes. We have a very strong commitment to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Like all institutions, we have more work to do in this regard, but I truly believe Newman University has made great strides over the last 2.5 years to develop this framework to serve our students. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Joseph. We do have time for a couple of questions if anybody has any specifically related to this topic. We will also have time during Q&A. Does anybody have any questions for Joseph Shepard?
So I know you guys mentioned that these students have to enroll in Navigator. Is Navigator not something that is required for every student?
So it is not required for every student. It is highly encouraged for every student. And it is a 3 one-hour course series. So they start at the spring. Typically, if they're an incoming freshman, they would start at the spring of their freshman year. The fall, they do our Traditions and Transitions 1-hour course. And then they take the second course sometime during their sophomore or junior year. And then the final course is called Launch, and that's during their senior year. If they're a transfer student, then they can hop into the program where it makes most sense.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. It's so good to see everybody.
All right. Well, thank you, Joseph. Nice question, Emma. For those of you who don't know, Emma used to be a part of our team, and now she's working it on the high school side. So good to see you, Emma. We're going to move on to one of our faculty on campus. Happened to be my advisor while I was here. I was actually a theology major after I was undecided for a number of years. Undecided theology, and he teaches history. Nothing to do with each other, but I thought he was a good person to talk to on a regular basis, so I decided to make him my advisor. Dr. Kelly McFall is a professor of history here at Newman University. He is also the director of our honors program. So he's going to be talking to you a little bit today about an option that some of your students may be interested in, our honors program. And then he also runs our Europe by Rail program, which is a every other year study abroad program in Europe. And he'll talk a little bit about that. So take it away, Dr. Kelly McFall.
Thank you, Georgia. It's wonderful to, I would say see you all, but I can't see almost anybody, but it's wonderful to talk to you this morning. I look out my window and it is the 1 day or 2 days of the year in Kansas where we get snow. I'm from Michigan, so it makes me feel like home. I wanted to chat just a little bit about the honors program with you. Georgia asked me to do that. And I want to start by reminding you that we really have 3 goals for all of our students. We want every student who comes to Newman to flourish while they're at Newman, to find a home and to succeed and find advisors and mentors and friends. We want every student who comes to Newman to find a good job and to be ready to succeed in that job and to meet their career goals after they leave. And we want every student who comes to Newman to change the world. Sometimes that's a big change, often that's a small change, but that's our goal for everybody. And I say that because the honors program is not about singling out a group of people and saying that they're better. It is about recognizing that every student who comes to Newman deserves the best path through Newman to prepare them to meet our goals. And for high achieving and high potential students, we think that's the honors program. The honors program is a little over a decade old. We have an incoming class of about 25 students every year. It's intentionally kept small. It's kept small so that we can get to know every person on an individual basis and that we can work with them to succeed. You see the mission statement in front of you. We've thought about that for a long time. That's what we want for our students. And to do that, we try and provide them experiences in the classroom, whether that's honors sections of general education courses, whether that is distinctive courses that are open primarily to students in the honors program. I'll just list a couple of them so you get a flavor for what that might be. The one I'm going to I'm actually teaching next semester is a class called Unmasterable Pasts. And that's a class for students to think about societies with trauma in their past. How do societies wrestle with past events that live on, whether that's slavery or wars or genocide or oppression? And what does that mean for people who live today? It might be a course like that. It might be a course about scientific controversies. My students, while I was on sabbatical last semester, played a game where they put Galileo on trial under the chemistry professor, played a game about genetically modified crops and famine in Africa and some other things as well. So we have distinctive classes where they get distinctive experiences as well. Or you can do what we call honors options, the chance to take a course and make it their own. They sit in the class with other students, but they talk to the instructor and they tweak the syllabus in a way that makes sense for them so that it more clearly connects the course with their career interest, or it more clearly connects the course to the background they have. So we do that in lots of ways. And we think those classroom experiences are important. Those classroom experiences almost always culminate in a 2-semester research project where our students work one-on-one with a professor. And the way I talk to them about this, we want them to know something by the end of their project that nobody else in the world knows. And then we want them to go and tell people about it. So they go to a conference and present a paper, or they write something and submit it to a journal, often an undergraduate honors journal, or even an op-ed, because we want this research to make a difference in ordinary people's lives. Classroom experience is really important, but it's not the only thing we do. We want them to have an honors community, a community which enriches them and empowers them and offers them a place. And so we do a whole variety of community building events and events that challenge them to think about different things. So for instance, that may range everything from going to a movie together and getting ice cream afterwards and talking about the movie. It may be a study session where we all gather on the lawn. This is what we did this semester with COVID. We set up lawn chairs and we sat 7 or 8 feet apart from each other in the nice Kansas wind, and we studied and helped each other. It may be something more challenging. So we have a common read. And last year, the common read was a book called What Made Maddie Run. And that book is about high achieving athletes and the challenges they have coming to college, particularly with mental health. But we recognize that high achieving academically, students who are high achieving academically often also have those kind of mental health and social challenges. And so we wanted everybody in the program to think hard about what that meant and to be able to talk to each other about the mental health challenges or social challenges that we're having. Another example, this semester we brought a communications professor, actually you just heard from her, Professor Hane, in to talk to the students a couple weeks before the election about how to have difficult conversations with people who disagree with you and how to do it respectfully and thoughtfully and productively. And so we try and build a community of people outside of the classroom that is willing to engage each other. And we try and build connections with with alums, because we want this community to continue for the rest of their lives, right? So we do a lot of things with that. We want people to learn about the world broadly. And one of the ways to do that is to travel. And I'm watching the pictures that you see in front of you, some of which are from classes. You may have seen a young woman standing up holding a laptop. She's playing a game. That's the French Revolution game, and that is the crowd in the background launching an assault on the rich and the privileged in Paris. But many of these pictures are from trips I have led to Europe. And so you see that one on the right, that is a cathedral in Prague. And that is a group of people, I think 3 years ago, who went with me on Europe by rail. This is one of the ways you can travel abroad at Newman. There are others. I know Sonja Bontrager is coming up and she'll probably talk about more. My trip is meant specifically to recognize that some students, while some students can in fact travel for a semester or a year, many students aren't able. They don't have the money, they don't have the time. And so they would prefer to travel in short term. So this trip starts out in Vienna, because I lived in Vienna and I can find my way around Vienna no matter how jet lagged I am. We end up in London because it's my favorite city in the world and everybody should just move there now. And then we hopscotch around, whether that's Berlin or Krakow or Prague or Copenhagen. And in doing so, we try and learn a little bit about Europe. We do so inexpensively, which is partly driven by money, but partly driven by the fact that we want to understand the place we're going to be. And the way to do that is to take the tram or to walk across town, to eat at a local restaurant and mingle with the people who live there and learn from them rather than riding air-conditioned buses everywhere. That's a great trip. As Georgia says, it goes every 2 years. It costs students about $3,500 for 3 weeks. That's all inclusive except for dinner and except for whatever they do after I've gone to bed. I don't want to know that. And it's a great time. I know my time's coming to an end, and if I had more time, I would talk a lot about assessment, because we want to be sure we are doing this well, and we want to be sure that our students are benefiting from this. I talk all the time to students, college is expensive, even at a place like this, which is affordable. College is expensive and YouTube is free. So we want to make sure that we maximize their learning, maximize the value they get from college. And if I had more time, I'd tell you about how we do that. Here, I'll just point out that over the last couple of years, 100% of our graduates either immediately moved into employment or went to graduate school or professional school. But I'd rather tell you about the people I know. If I had more time, I'd tell you about Carly Sullivan and the art exhibit she did at a gallery in Wichita as part of her final project, showing the pictures that she took while she went with me to Europe. I would talk about Courtney Klaus, who is the third of our law school, of our graduates in the past 5 years who went to law school on a full ride scholarship. She went to Notre Dame, the other two went to KU. I talk about Elena Garrett, who now buys rockets for the Air Force. I talk about, you see Pancho there, he's the guy on the right. I talk about Pancho, who now lives in London. I'm a little jealous. He has a PhD in chemistry and he's doing great things. Or the tall guy on the left, who is David Ballman, who's in med school, or the woman in the middle, Courtney Klaus. She's actually running a game for faculty at the University of Georgia as part of an internship she did. Or I tell you about the weddings I get invited to. Because for me, the most important or the most valuable assessment tool I can have is to think about the relationships I've built, the number of people who come back to see me and tell me how valuable the program was, and who say yes when I ask them to do things for current students, because that's the most important assessment tool for me. So I think I've used up my 10 minutes, Georgia. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll stick around for the Q&A. If you have questions, and you're always welcome to contact me if you have other questions.
Thank you, Kelly. Does anyone have any specific questions for Kelly about the honors program or the Europe by Rail Study Abroad program? If not, that is completely fine. We will move on. So our last campus update before we do some admissions updates in our Q&A is from Professor Sonja Bontrager. She is an assistant professor of Spanish here at Newman University. She was my Spanish professor and dealt with me for a number of years, so she is a wonderful woman. She teaches Spanish here at the university. Spanish is, I believe, the only foreign language that we offer. It's a minor, and it pairs really well with a lot of the different programs that we offer here at Newman University. So she's going to talk a little bit more about the Spanish minor, what your students can achieve in those classes, and then a little bit about our Guatemala Study Abroad program that we do every other summer.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you. Thanks for your attention and for your interest in Newman. I think from listening to my colleagues, probably you can see how human-centered we are in our pedagogy here and in our work. We believe in the human dignity that each student embodies, and part of our mission is to recognize that and honor that in all that we do. The Spanish program is a minor, as Georgia said, and here's a graphic that explains where students can begin. Those who are true beginners would begin at the yellow level at the base, and that's elementary. Next up after those two courses is intermediate. And then we have the green, which would be like the applied intermediate skills of reading, conversation, and an overview of Latin American and Spanish civilization and culture. Finally, a capstone course is a 1-hour field experience where students choose a site in our community and beyond in some cases, where they're using their Spanish skills and reflecting on the values of our particular Spanish program. And one of them, beyond our communicative competencies, our cultural competencies, is to work with underserved communities and to develop a hunger and thirst for justice and peace, which is also part of our identity as a Catholic institution. So starting points are very different depending on what the students might have as a background. Some may have AP courses, advanced standing. Many, I often advise heritage learners who may speak Spanish at home and have had the opportunity to learn to read and write in Spanish to take the CLEP test, and very quickly many of them test out of the yellow and the orange levels, and so it leaves them really only 3 classes in that 1-hour internship to earn an entire minor. So that works very well for many students. Others can take that throughout their career and are able to finish easily in a 4-year major program. I think I'll go on. Would this be a good place to stop for Q&A, Georgia, about this component before I speak about Guatemala?
Yeah, that would be great. Does
anyone have any questions about the academic Spanish program at Newman?
We can move on to study abroad.
All right. So our Guatemala Study and Serve program was created to be a unique program in the region. We began in, I guess the first Spanish language study abroad program was in 2006, and we used to go every year. Now, as Georgia said, we're in an every other year mode. We've had groups ranging from 7 students to, I think our last was 22. So it depends on the year. What's different about this is that we do an intensive pre-departure course where we study the history and the culture of our site before we go. Because of some of the kinds of things that Dr. McFall referenced in his courses, actually the trauma that can be part of a different country, knowing that ahead of time makes it much easier for students to understand the context that they're seeing. And so we do this pre-departure course together. We learn about intercultural communication. We learn about culture shock, which is one of the fruits sometimes of making that brave step to live in a new place and to speak a new language. And we learn about the history of the Sisters of the Adorers of Blood of Christ, who are our sponsoring order for Newman University, and the missions that they've established in Guatemala. And they have a healthcare project, and they have what's called the Instituto Maria de Matias, which is a high school that was founded by one of our ASC sisters. And we also learn about the Blessed Father Stanley Rother from Oklahoma. Some of you may be familiar with him. And his sibling sister is one of our ASC. So we learn about his life and his ministry before we go to Guatemala. People of all different levels are welcome to participate. So we've had beginners and we've had heritage learners who are native speakers in Spanish be participants in the program. We also take care of practical tasks because the program is 2 months long and there's quite a bit of preparation that needs to happen before going away for that amount of time and to do so successfully. After the pre-departure program, we end up in what you see in the right-hand photo there at a guest house in Guatemala City. And there we catch our bearings and get to know some of the basic day-to-day functions in the country and how to navigate them. But then following that, we spend a week with the Sisters of the Adorers and host families in their community, which is about an hour outside of the capital. And there, students live with host families and they rotate through a variety of tasks where they may be working in the healthcare clinic, they may be teaching English in the Instituto Maria de Matias, and they may also be working on some construction projects that address broader area questions of health in the community. Of course, this is all done in Spanish, and so it can be a little challenging sometimes for students when they're beginning, but we're received with such warmth and kindness by our host nationals, and very quickly bonds are created and students' confidence is raised. It also is a kind of formation and understanding the realities of how many people live in other parts of the world. And it's an easing into that kind of culture to understand our privilege and then some of our responsibility that accompanies that. Following that week, the bulk of the program is 5 weeks at what would be the right-hand photo that you're seeing of the young woman with the man at the table. That is our cooperating language school, and each student gets one-on-one language instruction from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. daily at this school. And their instruction is terrific. They take our same exams that we do on campus and do very well. But every afternoon, they also have excursions, guest speakers, lectures, and we meet periodically. During the service week, we meet every evening together. During the more traditionally academic program, we meet several times a week to debrief and process the experience and to work on outside writing that integrates the experience. Following this part of the program, we always have an excursion to the place where the Blessed Father Stanley Rother served and was martyred. And we also visit Maya ruins in Tikal. So we see some very different climate and context. So we begin with the idea of our own roots as an institution founded by the Adorers of the Blood of Christ. We look at the roots of the culture where we're being invited to live for some time and see their ancient history. We see some of their more recent history in the last 40 years and see some of the current realities that they're facing. And it's always done in relationship, just as we're seeing in this context. And so one thing I love about this is it takes away a lot of the anxiety of comparison, because when we're learning something like that, we feel pretty vulnerable. And having a kind instructor who meets us where we are can be a real catalyst for learning quickly. Students have the option of choosing the same teacher for another week, but usually we encourage them to rotate so they get 5 different instructors during their time. They also have a rural option with another language school where they see realities in a rural setting of an area, a community that was supported and sponsored by the Catholic diocese in that area. So throughout the program, there's options, or the opportunity, not really an option, there is the opportunity to at least observe. And for those students who are practicing faith, they're certainly supported in those efforts. They have a chance to meet with leaders. They have a chance to attend daily masses if they wish. They have a chance to speak with the sisters. We often meet with a local deacon in the area and other priests. At the language school, people come from around the world to study with us. This last time there was a group of Jesuit priests there. And so faith just becomes a part of our day-to-day experience, and service is expanded from just the kinds of projects that often make for photo opportunities, but rather as a mode of being and a way of listening and a way of recognizing our hosts as our instructors, and hopefully converting what sometimes has not been an equal relationship with our neighbors. And when those things happen, when there truly is that connection and that understanding, it's really transformational and brings a lot of love and joy and relief, and even increased language fluency in the process. One of the things we think about are the words of our inspirer, the Blessed Saint Newman, who said, "God created me for some purpose. I may not know of it in this life, but I shall know it in the next. I'm a link in a chain, a bond of connection between persons." It's my hope that through these kinds of programs, students come to understand their connections with one another, with our local neighbors, and with our neighbors across borders, and understand how our lives and our choices intersect. And fruit of these kinds of programs are that realization, and disproportionately we see people in graduate school and being leaders in their fields. A bit disproportionately in health professions and education and social work. Those are often the kinds of students who are attracted to the program. Any questions about what I've spoken about or the program?
I will say in my time in the program, I enjoyed getting out. I know we did a couple of service projects off campus. So it was nice to kind of tap into an alternate type of vocabulary depending on where it was that we were volunteering. So if we were at a food bank versus some sort of healthcare volunteering, or if we were working with kids. I thought I was fairly good at Spanish until I got into different settings where I realized I was missing a few of those words, and that was something to really study up on. So those are the type of experiences I appreciated as a student.
Thank you, Georgia. I have good memories of those times too.
It was also unique having native speakers in my class because they definitely had some different challenges that I had learning Spanish. We were just a different set of challenges there, but it seemed to work together in one classroom.
Thank you for mentioning that. That is something that, from being a small school, we don't have separate courses for heritage learners. And so students do become very collaborative in sharing and exposing like where their insecurities and doubts are. And very often between the more traditional learners versus heritage learners, they have complementary skills. And so one might be very good at listening comprehension and speaking, and the other might be better at some of the structural pieces in writing. And together they can be really powerful teammates.
Thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions for Spanish or about our Guatemala Study Abroad program?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Sonja, for sharing today. We're going to move on. I did want to provide you guys with some updates from the admissions office specifically. And if you have any questions, we are about to go into the Q&A. We have some other members of our campus community joining to help us with that Q&A today. I know a lot of you submitted some questions in advance on your RSVP form, so we're going to try to address as many of those as possible. And we've asked some of the members of the community to come in as stakeholders in a lot of those answers. I apologize in advance. I do have quite the cough. So hopefully that doesn't affect me today. But a few things to update you on. I wanted to introduce some of the members of our team that are on the call today that maybe haven't had a speaking part yet, but will be included later. Once again, my name is Georgia Drews. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions. I have worked at Newman in the admissions office for a little over 7 years, but I did attend Newman for 6 years, 6 years straight, which was a lot. 4 years in undergrad, I got my bachelor's in theology from Newman, as well as my master's of theological studies. I'm fully aware that working in admissions has little to do with the theology field, but I do enjoy being back at my alma mater. I enjoy my office being a few paces down the hall from the chapel where I can attend daily mass. And I really do enjoy helping students with a variety of different questions and concerns that they have as they're navigating this process. In my role as Associate Director, I do plan events for this office, which look a little different this year. I also work with some unique populations in our office. Right now I'm working with our international students, both first time and transfer. I also work with our seminarian applicants from the Diocese of Wichita, as well as the applicants from the Diocese of Little Rock. So if anybody here is from Arkansas, we do assist with studies for the Diocese of Little Rock seminarians. I also wanted to update a couple of our first-time student counselors. Emily, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Emily Lurkin. I'm an admissions counselor for first-time students. I'm also an alumna, so I just graduated in May during a pandemic, kind of wild. I graduated with 2 degrees, one in communication and one in theater, with a minor in journalism, and from the honors program. I know there was a picture of myself and Martina from one of our first years in the honors program. With that, I primarily work with students from the northern United States, northern Kansas, the private schools in Wichita, and some of the public schools as well.
Thank you. One of our other first-time student counselors is Martina. Martina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. I have an accent. My name is Martina Viale, and I am from Italy, but I studied here at Newman for 4 years, and I decided to stay. I am a first-generation student as well, so pretty familiar with that population. I graduated with 2 degrees as well, one in marketing and one in management, and I had a minor in entrepreneurship. I did not, however, graduated from the honors program. I'm sorry, Dr. McFall. But I actually have the southern counties of Kansas, and then I have the southern states of the United States, and I usually work with more of the public schools here in Wichita.
We also have a few other people from our team on the call. I'll let them introduce themselves as well, but Jeff Lovar is our digital marketing manager. He's kind of been behind the scenes today, monitoring our chat and picking out some of the best Zoom backgrounds. Also kind of behind the scenes today is Amy Arrington, our Welcome Center manager. If you have any students that schedule an in-person or virtual visit with our office, Amy is the one that customizes their visit schedule, makes sure that they get in to meet with faculty, have a tour, and she manages our student ambassador tour guides. I know that you guys aren't really working with a lot of transfer students, but you might be working with students who know that community college or some sort of 2-year school is the first part of their journey through college. So we have on this call today our 2 transfer admissions counselors, and they are both named Holly with an IE, so we call them Holly J and Holly W. Not confusing at all for anyone on campus, but I'll let them introduce themselves. First up is Holly J.
Hi, my name is Holly Johnston, and I've been with Newman for about 7 months now. And I have really enjoyed coming to the university and learning from everyone here. I work with transfer students, and I really enjoy that aspect, as I was not a traditional college student. And so I feel like I have a little bit of experience to offer all of our transfer students, and I'm happy to help anyone.
Holly. Our other Holly is Holly Weatherburn, so you're up, Holly W.
Hi, my name is Holly Weatherburn. As Georgia said, I'm also a transfer admissions counselor. I'm originally from England, so like Martina, I also have an accent. My BA and MA is in communication. I was also a transfer student as well, so I think just kind of our team kind of builds from experience, and we just love to help fellow transfer students through the process. I was also a student athlete. So just kind of that perspective as well of being a student athlete, and just kind of, we love to show, you know, all of our students what Newman has to offer, because I feel like Newman has a lot to offer. So, but it's awesome to see so many friendly counselor faces on the call today, and I hope that you're all enjoying your event, because it's pretty awesome.
Thanks, Holly. A few updates for you, for those of you that are and are not familiar with the university. We are pretty excited. For those of you that may have served on the college side, we recently got a new system here at Newman University. I feel like, and I'm sure my colleagues can attest that it's been really awesome to have it here on campus. We recently got Slate. So Slate has allowed us to build a new application to manage our communications with students a lot better than we had previously. So we're really excited to have Slate. Our new application in Slate opened on August 1st. It is completely free for students to apply. Well, I work with international students. There is a small application fee for international students, but for all other students, it is free to apply. Our application is super quick and easy. It takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Newman at this time does not require a personal resume, any recommendations, or a personal statement from the students as part of the admissions process. I'm going to show you some of our scholarships, but I want to note that last year in October 2019, Newman University officially went test optional. So we're pretty excited about that. We've been working on it for some time, and we're really trying to get ahead of the game here in Kansas. So students, for first-time students who are applying to the university, need only have a 2.25 GPA or better to be automatically admitted to Newman. We do accept test scores if they'd like to submit them and see if it can yield a higher academic scholarship for them. This is our first-time student scholarship scale, and if you stay on for our visit presentation, Martina and Emily may talk a little bit more about this. But for first-time students, they need to have at least a 2.25 GPA. If they don't have a 2.25 GPA, they can turn in an ACT score of 21 or better and still be admitted. The scholarship scale is listed here. We've tried to make it a little bit easier for students to figure out what scholarship they might get before they're admitted based on their self-reported GPA or test scores. But you can see here, there's some amounts. $12,000 to $16,000 a year is what a first-time student can qualify for at the time they're accepted. There's no additional applications. We are automatically reviewing them as they are applying to the university, and we put in their acceptance letter how much they're getting each year for the next 4 years, as long as they maintain at least a 2.0 GPA and continue to enroll full-time. So the highest a student can get at the time of acceptance is $16,000 per year. For students that are graduating from a Catholic high school, Dr. Jagger mentioned the Catholic Promise earlier in her remarks. The Catholic Promise is a $14,000 scholarship that is aimed at making sure any student who graduates from a Catholic high school gets at least the $14,000 amount, if not more. So if they qualify for 12 or 13 and they're from a Catholic high school, they do at least get $14,000 a year. For students who submit a GPA and an ACT score, we do super score all ACT and SAT results. We want to know what they're capable of and not what they happen to get on a single testing. So if their ACT or SAT yields them a higher scholarship than their GPA, then they would get whatever the highest amount is that they could potentially qualify for. We have had an email campaign running pretty consistently, created by our digital marketing manager, allowing students to go in and kind of use a calculator to see what they might qualify for based on their self-reported GPA. I wanted to note, we talked a little bit about the fact earlier that I work with our seminarian applicants. In fall 2017, the Diocese of Wichita worked with Newman University to create the St. Joseph House of Formation. So now, all of the gentlemen in the Diocese of Wichita, the Catholic Diocese of Wichita, that are studying to be priests, do their first 4 years of formation and schooling here at Newman University. So they actually earn their bachelor's from Newman University prior to moving on to a formal seminary education elsewhere in various locations across the US. You can see this is our class right now, the gentlemen that currently reside in the St. Joseph House of Formation, which is a couple miles off of campus. You can see some of the priests that call themselves stay-at-home dads who live in the House of Formation, help with their studies, prayer, meals, and essentially are kind of like the house dads. They attend classes here. You can see they're wearing their polos. We see them all around campus. They're in classes with all of our other students. They frequently help with serving and doing different parts of our daily masses that we have here Monday through Friday. So we have about 17 guys in the House of Formation currently. And my update is that we actually just graduated our first 5 seminarians from the House of Formation in Newman University. They graduated this past May, and they are currently attending seminaries across the US. So we're really lucky to have that partnership with the Diocese of Wichita. Every year when we start classes in the fall, we have a matriculation mass the first week of school that all of our first-time students are invited to attend. Our bishop is very supportive. He's always at that mass. He's at all of our graduation ceremonies. We also did a full renovation of the chapel last year. So in this picture, you can see, if you were familiar with our chapel before, it got a little bit of an update on the paint. We got a new altar that was blessed by the bishop, and we had a fantastic ceremony with reception afterward before COVID hit last year to really celebrate the fact that we got some needed updates in the chapel. For those of you that work with students who are coming from Catholic high schools or that are looking for a Catholic college, Newman University does offer Catholic masses at 7 p.m. on Sunday evenings. We also have daily mass at noon, Monday through Friday, in addition to Eucharistic adoration with time slots for either walk-in or scheduled. And we also have confessions each day that we offer mass shortly before mass. So lots of opportunities for students to be involved in the services, as well as campus ministry, service trips, and all of the offerings that they have. We do have a custom view book at Newman University now. We put a lot of work into it, so I hope you'll pass it on to your students and maybe try it out yourself. You can scan the QR code on the screen or use the link at the bottom to access it. We, like many other schools, have had in the past a view book that was very heavy and thick and lots of pages and difficult to send out to students via mail or to lug along with us to college fairs and high school visits. And so we've started utilizing a custom view book that students can make digitally on their phone or computer. Students go in, tell us a little bit about themselves, select some of the programs that they might be interested in studying, in addition to some of the other aspects and extracurriculars on campus that they want to know more about. The custom viewbook creates their own viewbook that has just those things that they want to know about and sends it to them to review digitally. At any point, the student can go back in and change, take things away, add things, and continually keep editing their custom viewbook, share it with their parents, their friends. So use this. If a student's looking to know more about Newman University, we're going to send you some things in the mail that you could potentially have in your office, but at any time, the student can go in and make one of these without us having to send them print materials, which has been super helpful in the age of virtual visits. We have tried to, as much as we can, tag different schools of students that we might be honoring or schools that are visiting us or we're visiting them. If you'd like to loop us in, do so. If you like the counselor box that we sent you in the mail, if you RSVP'd in time for that, tag us, send us a picture. If you decide to make Buddy the Elf's breakfast pasta, we'd love to see it. Take a video, tag us. We're on 5 different social media platforms, constantly putting up new content on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. We're gonna do a little bit of Q&A today. We have some people on the call that are gonna be helping us out. I have some of the questions that you had presented to us on your RSVP form. Want to make sure that everybody who's on the call today that's going to answer questions is ready. We do have some more people from across campus in addition to some of those that you heard from earlier. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. One of those joining us today is Joanna Pryor. She's our current Director of Athletics here at Newman University. Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Like she said, Joanna Pryor. I'm in my 2nd year of being the athletic director here at Newman, and I'm getting ready to start my 12th year here at Newman total. I started as a volleyball coach, moved into NCAA compliance, and then into my current job. We are NCAA Division II, and we're just excited because we are actually playing sports right now. So it's a big deal for us. We didn't have any fall sports, so being able to play right now is kind of a big deal with the COVID world. But I'm here for any questions.
Thanks. We also have Myra Fannin-Steele, our Director of Financial Aid. Myra, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Myra Fannin-Steele, and I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at Newman University. I've been with Newman for 4 years, but have been in the industry in the financial aid world for 27 years. So just really excited to see where our new world takes us. I always say it's always changing. in financial aid, we're a little bit used to it. But I think one thing I would like you to know is if students are really questioning where they're going or what their aid package might look like, encourage them to reach out to the different schools that they're considering and reach out to their financial aid offices and see if they can set up an appointment or a call. We do Zoom meetings, being able to connect with them so that we can answer their questions so they can make a good decision for them.
Thanks, Myra. Yeah, we're definitely a little bit smaller school, so it's easier to get that hands-on, in-person, very personable experience with you guys. We've also have Sandy Bush, one of our transcript analysts from the registrar's office. Sandy?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sandy Bush. I'm the transcript analyst in the registrar's office, and I review all the transfer transcripts that come in and make the evaluations on all the transfer credits. So if you or any of your students have questions about how their courses will transfer to Newman, I'm the person that you need to ask.
Thanks, Sandy. We also have several of the people that had spoken earlier in today's meeting joining us. So they are open and available for questions. I did want to address one of the questions in the chat, although I think it got addressed briefly. So even though Newman is a Catholic university, we do accept students from a lot of different faith backgrounds. Students don't necessarily have to be Catholic to attend. We do not have any requirements for students to do chapel hours or a set amount of service hours, although those are things that a lot of our students do voluntarily. I believe the latest stat I've seen that is a little over 40% of our student body self-identifies as Catholic. We do have a lot of students from various faith backgrounds here on campus. As part of our Newman Studies program, which is our core curriculum or our general education curriculum, all of our students do take one theology class and one philosophy class as a part of that. There's a lot of classes they can choose from to fulfill those requirements, and they take them with a wide range of students, seminarians, students that are cradle Catholics, students from a lot of different faith backgrounds, and not all of them focus specifically on Catholic theology. There are things like social justice classes and faith in relation to society, so a lot of different options. I have some questions that you guys submitted in advance, but if you have any, you're welcome to put them in the chat. Let me see here. Maybe some of our faculty want to address, due to COVID, what kind of adjustments have been made on campus that our students need to be made aware of. I know we've done a lot of things with safety on campus, but do any of our faculty on the call want to speak to maybe what your classes are like right now?
Okay, so I'll go. This is Kelly again. Our classes, as Georgia says, safety is a primary priority for Newman, safety for our students, safety for our faculty and staff. And that means that we are offering classes in a variety of ways this semester, and we'll be doing so next semester. Sometimes that means online, either asynchronous or synchronous. Synchronous classes are usually through Zoom. Sometimes that means in person, but with students spaced fairly widely and with masks. In my case, that means I hold classes outside often. And so some of my colleagues have come to recognize that my office this semester is a picnic table just outside of the administration building. As I understand the statistics, it is 20 times safer to be outside than inside, and I want to prioritize student safety while being able to actually have conversations, because I teach history, and for me, the ability for students to talk to each other and teach each other and learn from each other is primary. And so we are adjusting, whether online or in person, in a way to preserve that kind of interaction while prioritizing safety.
Thanks, Kelly. We did have a question in the chat for you, Joanna. As a Division II school, does Newman offer athletic scholarships, and what would be the best way for a student to go about making those connections with coaches?
Sure. Yes, and I just answered it in the chat. We do have athletic scholarships, and we do stack those oftentimes with academic scholarships as well. I think the best thing that a student can do while they're in high school is kind of create themselves a profile, and whether they make that a page that has their picture, their information, academic information, athletic information, and send that to a coach. I think that's the best way to get themselves introduced in an email. And then, you know, especially with the challenges that we're facing now and limited traveling and limited games, limited fans at games, we often go off of videos. So if a student athlete has a video that they can submit to a coach, I think that's a good way to go about it as well. And then, of course, just contact information for their current coaches.
Thank you. We did have a question submitted in advance. I know we have some counselors here who might work with IB students. So Kelly and maybe Sandy, do you know what and how much college credit a student can expect to receive for IB curriculum or credits? If you're not sure, we can totally send out this answer later.
Oh, no. Actually, we have a lot of transfer information on the registrar's webpage. And I don't know if you can pull that up for us to look at. But we actually do have a chart on there that tells about the IB credits and how they transfer into Newman. We accept all of the IB credits. Okay, you'll want to go to the right-hand side where it says transfer credits in the box. And scroll down toward the bottom. And you'll see IB and AP also. At the end of the IB paragraph, there's download here, click on that. And there, that shows you the different tests, how many credit hours the students would receive if they receive the appropriate scores, and then the classes that it transfers into Newman as. We, of course, accept all the credits, whether a student earns 3 credit hours or 36 hours. With IB, though, there is a limit of 30 credit hours. Anything over 30 is treated as excess hours. And so that means they'll have to take more hours at Newman to equalize that, because they'll still need 62 four-year school credits.
And Georgia, if I can just jump in to say, we've had a number of IB students, and we've had many IB students over the years at Newman, and a number of IB students graduate from the honors program. And we want to recognize in the honors program that IB students in particular come in with many of their college classes done. And so we reduce the expectations for the number of honors classes they take to recognize that many IB students come in as sophomores.
It looks like we have a question in the chat. If they exceed 30 hours, do the students get to choose which are accepted?
No. No, like I said, we accept all of their credit hours. And it's just say they got 32 IB credit hours. That's just 2 extra hours that they'll have to make up at Newman for your institution.
Okay.
We accept all their credits.
We had a question submitted in advance about what is and is not test optional. I know we are test optional for admissions purposes. We do have some special programs that Emily and Martina will talk about later. We have some special scholarships. We have a full tuition award that we give out based on an application, interviews, essay every year to about 5 students. That one is currently not test optional. However, we do have the honors program that Kelly McFall spoke about. That one typically accepts a test score. However, we are temporarily test optional on that as we want those high potential students to apply. We do have a recommended GPA, a 3.7, that we'd like to see on students who apply for that program. However, all applications are reviewed by Dr. Kelly McFall for admission into the honors program. We also have an ASC Community Leader Scholarship Program for students that have a 3.0 GPA and a history of community service and volunteerism. There's no test score required for that. We're really looking for students who have a good background in community service, leadership, extracurriculars, volunteerism, whether they've kept track of their hours over the years or not. There is an interview required for that program as well as an online application. Students in that program do 45 hours of community service each semester, as well as a semester-long leadership class once a year for 4 years. We also have kind of a unique program. I know a lot of schools have direct admit or early admit type programs. Newman is fairly well known for our nursing program. We do have a direct admit option for students wanting to major in nursing who are still in high school. So if you have any seniors majoring in nursing that have a 3.5 GPA and at least a 22 on the ACT, they can actually apply for nursing now, interview after they've submitted and completed their application, and know now whether they've got a guaranteed spot for maybe a couple years down the road after they finish their prereqs in our nursing program. That's a guaranteed spot as long as they continue to do well in their classes, take their prereqs at Newman, and stay a nursing major. So that's a nice little option. We've got about 6 or 7 students who are interviewing tomorrow for that program, and we'll continue to do interviews through March. Myra, I'm not sure if you're able to speak to this, but we did have a question submitted about the average net cost of attending Newman. I know Newman is a private school, and so a lot of students may be deterred by the cost. I know you mentioned earlier you encourage them to reach out to go through all of their options, but do you know what the net cost of attending Newman is on average, or is that something we can find out and send after?
On average, for what we're trending for this year, for the 2021 year, because I always like to look at current year, and it changes a little bit. But with a student loan, and I look at direct costs because students have a choice where they live, so those costs are a little bit different, and their meal plans. But direct costs, so tuition and fees. When I looked at our average for this past fall, it looked like we came up with, if they took loans, if they were interested in that self-help aid, their out-of-pocket for direct costs would have been $3,122. If they looked at it and did not take any loans, it was about $10,000. So still very competitive when you're looking at a private school, even compared to some of the four-year publics.
And do you want to give, just for some context, maybe the current year that we're in now, like average tuition and fees? And I know room and board for a first-time student with the full meal plan is a little over $9,000 a year for both of those for the entire year. So a good cost in comparison to some of the local schools that have housing options.
Yeah, when I looked at that, our tuition and fees, our average tuition and fee is $33,150 for the year. So when you look at that piece of it, and of that, $31,450 of that is tuition, and that's a flat rate tuition. So hours between 12 and 18, if they take credit hours between 12 and 18, it's the same price.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions? You're welcome to post them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask them on the floor. Who's going to be brave enough? Either that or you're just hoping I'll get to the prizes really quickly. All right. Well, hearing no takers, big thanks to everyone that logged on to help with our Q&A and some of our campus updates today. So next up, some prizes. We are trying to do this as uniquely as possible. Typically, when we have this event in person, we're hiding tickets under chairs and plates and doing some really fun games for prizes. As I mentioned, each of our prize winners is going to get a little bit of Newman swag. You're still all getting your t-shirt, but a little bit of Newman swag in addition to that. with a prize from one of our local small businesses. The first prize I want to give out, and I'm hoping this person is here, we usually do the first person to RSVP. So that early bird that got in before everybody else, I'm hoping he's on the call. Joaquin Zapata from Derby High School, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Hi, Joaquin. It's so weird to call you that, guys. Fun fact, when I was in high school, he was my counselor. So you're still in the game. So you were the very first person to RSVP like minutes after we put out our email RSVP. So you are going to get a little prize from the workroom downtown. The workroom has a very unique Wichita gifts. If you're not from the Wichita area, we love our Wichita flag a ton. It is everywhere: license plates, t-shirts, buildings, murals. So Joaquin, you are getting a prize from the workroom along with some extra swag from Newman University.
Thank you.
Congrats. Keeping track of all of this. The other thing we wanted to do was kind of the bringing up the rear award. So the very last person to RSVP, I'm hoping she's on this call. Maybe not, but I did pick out some alternates. Patty Aliker from Seaman High School in Topeka. Are you on the call? Maybe? Bueller? Okay, I don't think she's here. Is Amy Alvarez on the call? She was the second to last person to RSVP.
I'm here.
Yay! You are the winner. You're going to get a little something from the Spice Merchant and some extra swag from Newman University.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone that put this together and everyone that participated. It was informational. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We also wanted to do our favorite social media post ahead of the event. I'm hoping she's here, but is there a Shannon Callahan here from DC Counseling? Shannon was like the very first person we saw that tagged us and put a picture about her box when she got it in the mail. Oh, come on, Shannon, you got to be here to get it. Oh, man. All right. I have another award. It's kind of a weird one. I'm hoping maybe, oh, I don't know that she's here. I picked out the best name. Typically this event is well known for its bacon, and so I wanted to give a small award to Diane Bacon from Belle Plaine High School because she RSVP'd for the event today. I was gonna give her something bacon related, but if she's not here, all right. Our digital marketing manager picked out some winners on the backgrounds. He's been perusing everything that you've been putting up on your backgrounds and some of your filters. So the best Zoom background is going to go to, where is it? Let's see. Well, the best on-theme Zoom background is going to go to Elizabeth Thomason from St. Michael Catholic High School. She did her research. She's got Newman's campus with the snow in the background. It looks like you could be there today. I'm sure that's exactly what it looks like. So Elizabeth, you are going to get a little something from the Nifty Nut House. Are you allergic to nuts?
I am not.
Okay, good. I have to ask, I didn't want to send you like a giant ticking time bomb of like peanuts or something and like have your allergies go off.
No, not at all. And I'm here in South Alabama where we don't get any snow at all. So I felt like I had to find some snow just to get a little experience of it.
Well, thank you for joining us all the way from Alabama. I also have a, Jeff wanted to give out an award for the most things on your office wall. That's going to go to Lisa Schmitz from Centralia High School. Lisa, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am.
Lisa, could you get any more things on your wall?
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
We're going to do a little gift from Coco Dolce Chocolates in downtown Wichita, so I hope you like chocolate.
I do.
I'm fairly certain it's not going to melt en route because it's not warm enough for that. So I'm confident that we can send you chocolate.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then the best Zoom background overall is going to be Kurt Johnson from the Kansas City Christian School, because he is parachuting into our meeting today. Would make it even better if he was dressed as Elvis. Kurt, are you still here?
I am. Thanks. It's been a great meeting.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Amen.
All right, Kurt, are you a coffee drinker?
I am. Yes.
All right, I am going to send you something from Reverie Roasters and Bakery here downtown, actually across the street from East High School. So you're going to get a little prize from them with some extra Newman swag.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Kurt. Thanks to everybody for attending today. This is a picture of the t-shirt we're going to send you. I am so happy with everyone that RSVP'd. We were not expecting this many RSVPs, and I appreciate you joining us. We had to order more t-shirts, which is a good problem to have. We are hoping that you have good holidays. We did record today's meeting, so we're going to send that out to everyone we invited, not just those that were able to attend. We had some people with conflicts and meetings and different time zones. Appreciate you joining us. If this is something that we continue to do virtually, we'll definitely look at adjusting the time a bit to work for some different time zones across the US. Now we have an optional thing. If you would like to stay and you have time and you want to learn a little bit more about Newman University, we're going to do a 20 to 30-minute virtual campus tour with Morella from Brazil. She's one of our student ambassadors. If you would also like to stay after that, there'll be another 20 to 30-minute Newman info session with Martina and Emily, our two first-time admissions counselors. Once again, these two parts are completely optional. Our regularly scheduled event is ending, but if you would like to stay on, we are getting ready to start our tour. If you need to hop off or you're not planning to stay, thank you so much for joining us today. Promote Newman University to your students, and if there's anything that we can do to serve as a resource for you or your students, please don't hesitate to let us know. If we don't hear from you or don't see you, have a good Christmas and expect to see a little gift from us in the mail coming up soon. Thanks, everybody.